Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2015 Hashtag Sports Conference. I think I speak on behalf of all the boxes on your computer screen in saying that we are thrilled to be the opening panel of the conference this year. Quick reminder before we get started, if you're going to use a hashtag, please use hashtag SportsConf. We're going to be, over the next 40 minutes or so, talking about a subject that's incredibly important and that we're very passionate about, which is sports teams as new media empires in a digital age. So, you know, one of my favorite things about Hashtag Sports Conference is actually that you can get people to call in from anywhere around the world. So we have people from London, Atlanta. I'm actually calling in from my own backyard, which is awesome. Never done this before. So really quickly, let me introduce the panelists for you. My name is Craig Howe. I am the CEO and founder of a company called Rebel Ventures. We are 50% sports digital strategy consultancy and 50% tech venture firm. And I'm joined this morning by a mix of friends and clients to talk about this. So when I call your name, guys, please just wave so everyone on the Hangout knows who you are. First, we have Aaron Levalley, who's the SVP of Digital Strategy and Analytics for AEG. Hi, Aaron. Next, we have Melissa Proctor, who is the VP of Marketing for the Atlanta Hawks. Hi, Melissa. And we've got Scott Kegley, who's the Director of Digital and Social Media from the San Francisco 49ers. One little caveat on Scott. Scott is actually calling in from the NFL Combine, so Scott, if you have to leave early, we all completely understand. And perfect timing, Matt. Matt Baxter, the Chief Media Officer for Liverpool Football Club, is with us today, all the way from Liverpool. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Thank you all for joining. We could probably talk about this all day, but in order to keep it, to 45 minutes, we're going to break it down into 3 core themes. The first theme is we're going to share some insights on digital content. Then we're going to go into talking about how we can showcase a few examples that really illustrate value. And finally, we're going to have a couple predictions from everyone on the panel about how they think that teams can actually become digital media empires. So, Aaron, I'm going to start with you. I think for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to ask you to sort of put your LA Kings hat on. I know that AEG has a lot of different brands, but this question's particularly about the LA Kings. Can you share some digital trends that you've seen with the team this year and how you evolve your content based on those insights?
Yeah, I mean, I think similar to everybody, we're seeing a shift to mobile more. A lot of people consuming content on mobile, and it's something where we've been, about 60-40 in terms of people viewing broadband versus mobile, and now we're seeing more a 50-50 split in terms of those who view the broadband site versus those that view the mobile site, and even some that view the broadband site are viewing it on mobile. So the shift is definitely there. It's happening. We're seeing in the metrics across the Kings and across all of our entities. So we know that, and so as we see the shift to the mobile side, what we need to do is start understanding what the consumer behavior is like. And what we're seeing is people on desktop, laptop are viewing more pages. So people on mobile are viewing fewer pages and spending less time on our site. So knowing that we have a bit of a shorter attention span, making sure that we're shifting our content strategies, how we're distributing our content, and how we're really engaging our fans through those. So 2 things we've kind of worked on over here with the shift is one, our beat writer at LA Kings Insider. He kind of follows the team, blogs for us, gives us updates as we go. And what we do is we really focus on his content. It's usually 2 to 3 paragraphs of quick hits on the Kings, what's going on, what's updated, and really it's something where our fans are desiring to see kind of what's going on day to day with the team, and that's the way we can do it in those short, quick hits. We don't get completely rid of long form content. We still have a fair amount of long form content, but it's just how we more of our day to day stuff is focused on those quick hitters. Another big thing of it is the social video side. We used to focus all of our stuff to YouTube or our internal player through New Lion alone, and really what we're seeing is on one video on Facebook we recently had 7 million video starts, which is beating our YouTube and our new line player by a fair amount, and that's over a wide variety of times. So really it's just finding the balance and knowing how the consumers are trending, so that you're producing content that is relevant to the consumers, but also something that fits what they're looking to see and browse.
Awesome. And Scott, I know when it comes to content that's relevant to consumers, especially in mobile, the 49ers are one of the first teams on Instagram. You have a great presence there. You've really been an innovator on Vine. Can you share a couple of insights on how you approach those two platforms in particular?
Yeah, well, I guess really each season we've always kind of focused the majority of our attention on one platform or one concept that we had on one of the social platforms. And so dating back a few years ago, we really wanted it to be Instagram. We really wanted to take fans closer to the action and really make it instantaneous, and provide a true second screen experience for fans watching at home, supplemental to what they're seeing on television. So whether that was the team running out, or photos of the huddle, or game preparation in Green Bay, when it's 0 degrees, and a lot of those things that fans really want to see, kind of a behind-the-scenes access. That's what we were able to do with Instagram. And our goal, we weren't maybe one of the first teams to really launch Instagram. In fact, we were probably like maybe middle of the pack in terms of NFL teams to launch on Instagram. But our goal was to become the #1 NFL team on Instagram, and we were able to do that within 2 seasons. The Patriots won the Super Bowl and overtook us, so they're kind of back on top of the standings, and they do a great job as well. But we really wanted to focus on that platform, and it was really quality over quantity on the platform. As our National Geographic was kind of the analogy that we used in terms of what makes the cut. This last season, we focused a lot on Vine. It was kind of an untapped social platform, in my opinion. A lot of people maybe not necessarily using it to its full potential, and I think that platform has the ability to be truly magical. And so we started experimenting it when we were in the playoffs at the end of the 2013 season, and we thought we were really onto something. So looked up some of the best Vine artists in the world, and one of them, Ian Padgham, was in our area, in our neck of the woods up in San Francisco. So we started developing a concept with him that would really not necessarily be dependent on team performance on the field. So much of content is tied to wins and losses, and you're gonna see successes on social when you're winning. But I think that this was really out of the norm, kind of a different route for us to go. And we had, I think, one of the biggest successes for me was when somebody tweeted that they were a Steelers fan, but they started following the 49ers on Twitter just because of the 40 Viners. And in week 1, when we were in Dallas, also were recognized by one of the Dallas grounds crew member asking if we were part of the 40 Viners. So really went beyond kind of our normal fan base, of the diehard, most loyal, passionate fans, and really gave us legs outside that community as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Scott. And when it comes to sort of developing brand campaigns that transcend team performance, I don't know if anyone's been more of an innovator this year than the Atlanta Hawks. Melissa, you're the head of brand development. How does that play into your digital content strategy?
Well, I came on board around September of last year, and I had 2 big jobs when I first started. The first was help define our brand and our target audience specifically, and the second was to help define the digital strategy. And so for us, I think that leadership really plays a key role, because we understood, coming from my background in entertainment, working for Turner Entertainment Networks, the most important thing to us is defining our target audience so we know exactly what we're creating and who we're making it for. And so when I first came in, a big part of my role was looking at research and data, specifically around census, Nielsen data, ticket sales, sponsorship. I mean, you name it, kind of looking at all that information and really saying, who are we going to be crafting our messaging for? Not necessarily excluding any audiences, but at the end of the day, we kind of landed on kind of 3 key target audiences. One, B2B, obviously from a business perspective, but in looking at the numbers in Atlanta, Multicultural audiences were huge. Most of the NBA had about 13% of their ticket sales from African American audiences. The Hawks, we had 33%. So we knew that was an audience we really needed to pay attention to. And then also millennials. And we kind of look at them as next generation Atlantans. So looking at audiences between the ages of 18 to 44 for us were key. And internally, once we kind of define that as our target and really begin to give everyone kind of a very good vision of what that meant, everything else kind of stemmed from that. So on the digital side, looking at that strategy, we said we need to figure out, we know who our audiences are, and now we need to be where they are. And so a lot of the cool, innovative things that you've seen coming out of the Hawks this season has really come from that key target audience strategy that we started with this season that everyone kind of jumped on board with.
That's fantastic. Now we're sort of layering into more of the high-level marketing stuff where you fit in perfectly, Matt. As the CEO of a global sports brand, there's so many different directions you can take with content. Can you talk about how you prioritize experimenting or getting onto new digital platforms into your content mix?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a number of areas where we can go. I think when you look at Liverpool, we have such a diverse audience across the world. I mean, various statistics will tell you that we've got about 588 million fans worldwide. And how do we get to those people? I think a couple of the guys before alluded to it. You don't be scared of experimenting. And like, for instance, the guys at the 49ers with the Viners and et cetera, don't be afraid of experimenting. So what we've done over the course of the last year or so is we've established ways of getting to our audience in local markets and local language. So how have we done that? Well, we've identified that we've got to be everywhere, but we've also got to be relevant. So we've established local language websites, local social media, done by local teams in local countries and local markets at local times. But what other thing we've done is we've launched LFC Extra. Now that's a global website in English language, but it's very targeted and geo-targeted to areas and specific English-speaking territories like the US or Australia. And it's an access mechanism for fans because we have hardcore Liverpool fans, but then we have fans around the world who potentially don't know too much about Liverpool, but they might see Raheem Sterling play in a World Cup and want to know who that player is. So if they want to know who that player is, they can go to Extra, they can tune in, they can get a bit more about him, think sort of lists and buzz feeds, etc., and then they can work their way into becoming a really hardcore Liverpool fan. So Extra is a very good entry mechanism. Then we also have a video on demand platform, which is LFC TV Go, which gives video content. So people can digest content in different ways, in different mechanisms and different platforms. And I think that's important. I think when you talk about Vines or Instagrams or whatever it may be, talk to your audience, the local language, the local time, the right place, and at the right platform they want to use. So whether it's WeChat in China or VK in Russia or wherever it may be relevant in that language at the right time. So, but don't be afraid to experiment. So use different content strategies, use different platforms, and if they don't work, keep changing all the time because the marketplace is changing. New platforms come in, new consumers, the way they digest things come in, like Snapchat. I mean, Twitter and Facebook weren't around till not so long ago, so people are developing all the time, and I think the key is develop as you go. To what Melissa was saying is know your audience, stay true to what you want to be doing. So from our point of view, it's taking Anfield, which is our stadium in Liverpool, taking that on the road around the world. And so for a fan in Jakarta, giving them that Anfield experience when they're in Jakarta, making them feel they're part of our family and they're part of Liverpool on a match day or even between match days. I think that's really quite important.
Awesome, thanks, Matt. So we've covered digital content strategy. Let's switch gears for a second and talk about a few showcase examples and talk about how we illustrate value, because there's no way that teams can become new media empires without having a premium value for their content. Scott, one of the great campaigns last year was the 40 Viners, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but I think it'd be really valuable for you to share how you actually made that happen, because one of the biggest struggles in innovation with sports teams is actually getting the budget and getting the opportunity to do innovative programs like this. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, it certainly wasn't easy, and it certainly didn't happen overnight. You know, towards the end of the 2013 season, and I mentioned this earlier, started experimenting with Vine a little bit during that playoff run. and saw we were kind of sitting on something that could be very powerful. So we started looking, you know, at some of the Vine artists, as I had mentioned. Spoke with Ian, who's now our lead Vine artist, probably in February of that off season. And honestly, it didn't get signed until the very first preseason game, the week of the first preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens of the following season. So it took several months, and in between there was trying to find it wasn't something that we had the budget for, so we had to try to find the right partner. And you know, when I say right partner, a partner that could really bring something to the table, you know, with this program as well. And Levi's was you know, is our naming rights partner, and they were an amazing fit. Our executive producer, Rob Alberino, was actually speaking with Levi's in terms of their in-game video board activation, and they were talking about doing something with Vine. And I had talked to him about the program and the concept previously, so we saw that as a natural fit. So we had several meetings with Levi's to try to you know, pitch them this concept and see, you know, if it might work for both parties. And they were an amazing sponsor, the perfect partner to do this with, because they were looking to do something outside the box. Nobody had really done what we were, you know, perceiving to do. And really the main goal when we talked about this, you know, how many times in sports do you get to do something that's truly original? I think that's very difficult to do. There's so many teams with so many great ideas. It's very, very difficult to be first, you know, with just about anything. And so they jumped on board, and the goal was to try to get as much publicity as possible for the program. And within a matter of weeks, it was published in Forbes, Wired, on Twitter's blog, and on Yahoo Sports, to name a few of them. So that was really our key metric with the program. It wasn't necessarily growing Vine followers. I think it's such a niche platform that really for us is really just to create buzz and do something different and provide the sponsor value, not just through the social campaigns, but through a lot of the publicity that we're getting outside of it. And it wasn't just a social campaign for us, but it also lived as content, excuse me, on 49ers.com, on our mobile app. It was their in-game feature, so we had 2 Vines each week that were inherently Levi's related, and 2 Vines that were anything we could really think of that would be 49ers related, from you know, claymation to stop motion, kind of coming up with new concepts each week. So now it's going to evolve next year. You know, I look at everything as how does this program not just, you know, look in year 1, but how does it evolve in year 2, 3, 4? Is it a campaign that can, you know, truly be expanded? And so next year we'll even be doing a television show that's more social centric. So it's amazing how the campaign is really taken off, and we're excited about where it's going as well.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Melissa, you know, Scott used the word, it was a first, and I think that you've had a pretty impressive year of firsts. Everyone, I think, in the entire sports world knows about the Atlanta Hawks Tinder Night. You guys recently launched a channel on Spotify. How are you able to make some of these programs happen?
You know, sure. I really believe, and I think I said it earlier, that having support from the top down is really crucial to having a lot of these things happen. So our CEO, Steve Koonin, came in this season and he said, you know, much to what we just discussed, it's all about experimentation. And how can we really, now that we know who our target audience is, how can we really speak to them in new and unique ways? To one, we really wanted to begin to build an emotional connection with our fans. I think we've done a fantastic job of it with our social media team and all the great stuff they do on Twitter. That brand voice is very specific, and people have come to know and expect a lot of great, fun, playful things from the Hawks in that way. But then how can we also turn it into other things with our promotions? So Swipe Right Night is a fantastic example of that. And it was a way that we could speak to kind of the millennials in the Atlanta market that may not have been Hawks fans, that may not come into the building on a regular basis, but truly create an experience for them that would be relevant and amazing and fun based on kind of who our brand is. So, I mean, and other things, for the example that you gave on Spotify, and even our little Spotify war with our playlist conversations, all those sorts of things really internally are true testament that ideas can come from anywhere. And actually, one of the Spotify examples came from a guy who was on a consultant on our research side who said, hey, I have this great idea. Look at this thing that I saw. And so we said, hey, let's take it on and figure out how we can make it work for our team. And so I know that this year experimentation has been key, as well as looking at the entire organization through every level to see where good ideas come from, because they can come from anywhere.
Awesome. Matt, turning over to you and changing gears just a little bit. I mean, as really the only true global brand, or this really focused globally on the panel, you have a little bit of a different situation with rights issues, especially as you have different rights issues in different territories. Can you talk a little bit about how that kind of influences the way that you approach digital innovation and some of the content and ideas that you want to create?
Yeah, of course. I think, again, it's a not one-size-fits-all in each territory. So you've got to look at it globally, but then you take each country or region specifically, depending on the rights you've got. So we work very closely with the Premier League, who some of you may or may not know. And the Premier League we work very, very hand in hand with the team there. They're a fantastic bunch, and they sell the rights. And the cycle works in 3-year cycles. So the next cycle will start at the beginning of the 16-17 season and go for 3 years. We're working through that process now. For example, the Premier League have just sold the rights in the UK to Sky and BT, some platforms in the UK, for £5.14 billion. That's a lot of money. So the clubs benefit from that in terms of getting some of the value from that deal. But within it, we have certain rights and holdbacks which we have to play with. So we can't show a match at a certain time. We can only do certain footage on certain times within social media at certain points. And that's the same within the UK or around the world in each territory, and how we can distribute those rights. So with that backdrop, I mean, we meet with the Premier League very much regularly. We're part of the Premier League shareholders meeting. We're a shareholder because we are part of the Premier League setup. So working with those guys very closely on what we can do enables us to understand how we can work within the boundaries of the rights we have, but also how we can extend them. So when all the other guys on the call are talking about experimentation, delivery, and understanding what the consumer wants, if we can't show some footage of a goal by certain hours during or after the game, then we use innovative ways of doing that. Maybe it's an image, maybe it's a fan talking about the goal, or maybe it's something else. We just got to look at different ways to play around the edges of those guidelines. And that said, when you look at the experimentation you do and digital innovation with those rights restrictions, how do you use them? So we've created everything from a musical on stage in the theatre to engage with further fans. We've talked about, we've got a movie that came out in September, which is One Night in Istanbul, which highlights one of our Champions League successes. So how you do these and play with these rights, you have to think slightly differently. So I think Melissa was talking about Spotify. We're looking at doing playlists from the team changing room on a match day and selling those through iTunes and other equivalent stores, or is it working with the players in their movies and working in different ways outside of the footage realm? So it's again a different way of delivering. I mean, at the moment we're probably engaging in 20 languages, 45 plus social media platforms, and we're at, I don't know, 40 million engaged fans. Each one wants something different, but ultimately they want to see the team in a way that they haven't seen them before. So I think from the 49ers perspective, it's a very interesting point about, behind the scenes access. So what have we got as a team that no one else can get, no other broadcaster, no other platform can get? So we have news from inside Melwood, our training facility, every day, all day. We have interviews with the manager on a regular occurrence. We have footage from the training ground, and no other access can get in there. So, and that is outside of the right. Well, it's not outside the rights restrictions, but it's within the realms of the rights restrictions we have. So, being unique and going and talking to the audience in unique ways within the rights restrictions is very, very important.
Great. Aaron, you've been quiet for quite a while now. I'm going to throw this one out at you. You're in a really interesting situation that LA Kings have such an amazingly strong brand voice, and you have such a highly engaged fan base on social because of that. Can you talk about some of the benefits and challenges that you've seen from having such a strong brand voice for the Kings in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an interesting balance here with the strong brand voice. I mean, we've had it for about 3 years, where we like to push the line a little bit and keep on engaging with our fans. And what we're seeing is the really kind of the real life and less programmatic voice has really resonated and helped us grow our specifically Twitter following over the past 3 years. And our director of digital media, Pat Donahue, has done a real good job of staying consistent on our brand, what our brand represents, and the balance between engaging with fans and really relevant content. Really when it comes to partners and getting engaged with the brand, for us it's really an opportunity to really work with our partners, be creative, and try to find ways to integrate them within our campaigns, and not just not pass on a message, but find ways to either help connect our players, our personality, or our team's brand with the sponsor. When we look at promotions with sponsors, really it's first thing we want to understand is identifying the objectives. You have sponsors of all different levels who are interested in either just getting their branding out there, getting their gaining awareness, or then there are others that are interested in interaction with our fans. So what we're trying to do is just take a look at all of our social channels combined and figure out how we can create campaigns that are multi-channeled. Or if it's a specific example, if it's a partner that's really interested in our Twitter following, how we can really create a compelling campaign through Twitter. One example that we've done recently is we had a partner send us a movie trailer and ask us to just promote the movie trailer. And what we try to do is flip that around, work with our players, and we took kind of one of the plot lines of the movie and really kind of engaged our players and challenged them and created this funny, fun skit, which really got to know the players' personalities and really also got to promote the movie. So it's it's something that we tried to connect by taking just a specific brand message. And then tying it something that fits more into how we communicate with our fans, how we interact, and that kind of making it relevant, making it up to date and current, and what's going on in the world is really important to us, and we try to continue that day to day. We try to answer. Pat's done a good job. Pat's done a really good job with interacting with fans, and we have our second intermission Q&A, and it's a chance for our fans to really ask questions, really of anything, of what's your thought on the play, or what's your favorite type of pizza. So really it's not just about the Kings. I mean, our fans want to connect to a personal brand, not just this corporate entity. So kind of coming back with the strong brand voice and getting with partners. I mean, I think it's a thing where everybody has the opportunity to really help a brand get to know your consumers, and you don't want to change your voice just because you have a certain promotion coming out. It's how can you be creative on some of the social networks that are, or even other digital areas that can really showcase what your team needs, what your brand wants to do, and also meets the goals of the partner.
Thanks, Aaron. You guys are killing it so far, making my job really easy. So for the last 10 minutes or so, I'm going to ask all of you the exact same question. Matt, sorry, you're the guinea pig. We're gonna start with you. What do you think needs to happen for sports teams to truly become digital media companies, and what kind of role would you personally play in that process?
We could be here longer than 10 minutes for that one, Craig. There's a lot in there, and I think from my point of view, it's what Aaron and the guys have just been talking about. Know your audience, know who the people you're talking to are, know your brand, know your audience. Create this two-way dialogue. Be engaging with your fans. It's no good having a fan base if you're not talking to them and they're talking to you and you've got a dialogue. So from our point of view, Liverpool fans, they're our family, and we want them to be part of our family every day and talk to us in an engaging way. It's not about us pushing content to these guys. It's about having a dialogue on a day-to-day basis in an engaging manner. And I think understanding your audience is going to be absolutely critical. So when you're looking at talking to them. Maybe there's a data share scenario where if you're giving someone an interview with the manager, then you may ask them their name. And the more you understand about your fans, the more you can talk to them on a one-to-one basis, wherever in the world, from our point of view, they are, and in the right language. So I think that's really important. I think across the board, when you're looking at the wider business, I think we've touched on it on this call, is, you know, what does the partners and our sponsors need, and what do they want? What's their objective, and how can they fit with us in terms of being part of the family? What are we doing from a retail perspective? What do the shirts look like that the players wear, and how can we appeal that to a global audience? And where are we reaching people so they can, you know, buy a piece of Liverpool anywhere around the world? I mean, is it, you know, teaching the future stars of tomorrow through a soccer school in India or China how to play football? So engagement on a different level. It's not necessarily through one way and one size fits all. It's across the whole business, and I think that's an important thing to look at. Then once you've got those fans, engage with them on a day-to-day basis, and, you know, using old school terminology, the content is king. If the engagement and the content is right, people will come back, and you can keep talking to them. So that's really very important. Those areas are very important. And then when you do campaigns and you're experimenting, make sure that you go back and analyze that campaign, work out what was right or what was wrong, and have a look at it, and let that help feed your strategy in a constant circle, so that you are constantly learning. And don't underestimate the power of having people analyze your data on a day-to-day basis. So I think there's some bullet points, but I think the one-size-fits-all thing, you know, is not the case. We've got to be very unique to people around the world. How we can do that, sort of the holy grail, but making sure from a global brand, we're in local markets, in local time, in local language. We want to be everywhere, and we want to be very relevant to those people. So I think those are the sort of some of the key learnings for us, really.
Thank you so much, Matt. Melissa, how did the Atlanta Hawks become a digital media empire?
Well, I actually agree with everything Matt just said, and as he was speaking, I'm nodding my head, because I really believe that for us to be relevant to our audiences is crucial. But also, just from my previous work, I used to be a ball girl with the Hawks years and years ago, and I think that we also need to look at every single thing around a sports team as content, which a lot of times, coming from my entertainment background, we looked at that. So a lot of behind-the-scenes aspects, and we've talked a bit about, you know, Vine and how we can use that in innovative ways, but just, you know, walking around our arena and a lot of the things that I see in terms of how fans are interacting, and really looking at everything as opportunities to create content, from the mundane things that no one really thinks twice about for a lot of our sports fans and just people in Atlanta in general. It's really interesting stuff, and so we're kind of sitting on a gold mine of content, and digital is the best way to be able to share it across any platform, so our fans can engage with it at any time in any way that they want. And so for us, I think we're already doing a great job of really finding our voice. Obviously, winning, you know, it's not a bad thing. It definitely helps. But, you know, as we move forward in the future, everything we talked about around understanding who our audience is, understanding retail, understanding what the game experience is. For us, the experience is really going to be a key part of our strategy moving forward, and the idea of entertainment, especially being in Atlanta. And so I really just think if we look at every single part of our business as potential content and entertainment opportunities, we'll have a lot more that we can give to our fans in the future.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. It looks like Scott is off covering the combine somewhere. So, Aaron, I think you're gonna take us home. Same question to you. How does AEG and the Kings in particular become a digital media empire?
Well, a lot of pressure on me to wrap this up, huh? Thanks. No, I mean, I think everybody on the panel, Matt, Scott, Melissa, everybody pretty much said it. I think, you know, first you take a look at, you know, the opportunities with social media. I mean, there are so many social channels out there, and none of us have the staff, none of us have the resources to interact with all social channels. So it's really understanding what channels are the best ways to communicate with your fans. You know, it could be Spotify, it could be Vine, it could be Twitter, it could be, you know, Tumblr. You know, there's so many options there, and we don't have the time to do all of them. So making sure you're spending the time focusing on the ones that you think can reach the brand, or it can help. You know, like Scott said with the example with the 40 Viners, it's not something that has a ton of reach necessarily, but it's something that really created this cool awareness, this great campaign that met the goal of the brand, met the goal of what Levi's wanted, what the 49ers wanted to do. So it's really just identifying your social channels, making sure you're set. People talked about buy-in here. You know, understanding the importance of getting people at the C level to back you. I mean, we know we've pushed the envelope a little too far sometimes on Twitter, but we also know that we have people backing us, so that if we make a mistake, that our executives back us, because they know we have the goal in mind, we have the right goals in mind, and we have the brand in mind. So showcasing some of the metrics, show how engaging it is. In the example of the Facebook video I showed, our executives are not looking at video starts on Facebook. So it's showcasing to them, listen, this is the growth of the channel, and now it's on our team to figure out, how can we get more sponsors tied in, how can we get more engagement, how can we grow these metrics, because the audience is there, and we want to make sure that we're not only engaging to our fans and keeping conversation going, but also finding ways to to create value in the digital space through different types of partners, or through things like Matt was talking about with LFC Extra. How do we create content that is something that we can monetize a little bit? So I think it's evolving. It changes every single day, and people really need to be on top of who their audience is, to really focus on those key channels, and then look for kind of unique and first type of activations.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Matt, Aaron, Melissa, and I'll say the same to Scott, even though he's had to take off. This is such an unbelievably great format to be able to have this conversation. To get people from all different parts of the world in one place to have a conversation. So, thank you to Google Hangouts and #SportsConference for having us this morning. Throughout the day, please continue to use the hashtag #SportsConf. I hope you've enjoyed spending a little bit of time with us, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.